15 years ago, I received some excellent advice from a professional, and I've never forgotten it. It has made a huge difference in my photography. So let's go talk about it. "15 years ago, I was thinking about getting into video. So I haven't bought a video camera yet. I was just exploring the idea, thinking about getting onto YouTube. And I spoke to a professional cameraman in our local fly shop. We're both fly fishermen, so we started off talking about fishing, and then I asked him about, what I should do to get better at video. I was looking for, the odd technical bit of information, maybe suggestion on the camera, who knows. What he said was, "I've got one piece of advice for you. Always tell a story." And it was excellent advice for video. But I was naturally leaning that way anyway because I have a training background. I'm used to structuring a beginning, a middle, and end, move to an objective as we go through the training. There should be a goal. That's sort of in the same structure for telling a story. So when it came to video, I was okay. Where it made the big difference, amazingly, was in my still photography. All of a sudden, I started thinking about telling a story, approaching a scene with this, what does it say to me? Do I see a story there? Or can I create a story? Either way, doesn't matter. And I began looking at my still photography and look at my subjects in that manner, and it made a huge difference. All of a sudden, my photography suddenly improved. What's more, when I'm doing my editing, I can very easily pick between a good photo and a not so good photo. They both look technically okay, but one tells a story and one doesn't. Or doesn't tell it quite as well. So it made a difference in my actual picture taking, and it also made a difference in my editing. Now, I'm going to put some photos up. They're not world-class, hang-on-museum wall type photos. These are just regular everyday photos, and I picked them deliberately because they're relatively ordinary. And I want to talk about the storytelling that's involved in these photos and how you can do exactly the same thing. And so let's go looking at these photos and see what you think of them. Our photos can tell a story outright, or it may simply invite the viewer to supply their own narrative. Sometimes a photo does both. Here, we can wonder, what are they taking a photo of? Was it an accident, a fight, a building? Was there something interesting going on? It leaves us wondering, and it's always great when a photo poses a question. Conveying emotion is a strong part of storytelling, and in this case we've got this huge expanse of water and a woman sitting by herself with a cigarette, a cup of coffee, and that little gesture that she's doing with her hair suggests that she's lost in thought, and it's not happy thoughts. We can think of what's going on in her life to make her sit by herself with a cigarette, looking rather unhappy. A photo can also tell the story of something that's about to happen, or we can anticipate will happen. In this case, we've got this rather creepy boy lurking behind a girl, and we don't know whether he's just being a creep or he's going to prank her or try to startle her. We can think of a number of things he might want to do in this kind of situation, and she's completely oblivious to him. It really does invite us to create our own little narrative. Portraits can tell a story as well. I mean, this was actually a street photo, not a portrait, but I put it together like a portrait. And it invites us to think about what this woman is like, what her life has been like. We see the arthritic hands, the fact that she's quietly reading by herself. It makes you wonder, what she's gone through in life. When working with models, we can also have them tell stories as well, simply by an expression. I had the model sit down at the piano, then turn and glare at me as if I was bothering her. So we can imagine the conversation that's about to happen between her and the photographer. It invites us to create a story about what sort of relationship they may have and why she's looking so annoyed. Here I wanted to create a horror movie vibe with the model, and so I asked her to look beyond me and look very scared. So it invites the viewer to wonder what it is that has frightened her so much, and what is about to happen. Again, I was looking more for drama, perhaps a bit of a horror movie vibe again, where I had the model turn and look as if she's being chased and she can't get through the gate. So it invites you to wonder about what's chasing her, what's got her so scared, and why can't she get through that gate. In this case, I actually startled the model. She was posing for other photographers, and I popped round the corner and kind of surprised her. And I got that look on her face, and, you know, with that rough area, the rough walls, the dilapidated look, the graffiti, you can spin a whole story out of this image. A single item might change the nature of a photo. I mean, this could be just a picture of a tractor without that bucket on the exhaust stack. And it invites us to wonder about why it's there. It's almost comical. So, you know, just to say, one little item and it can change the story in the picture. Another example of an object inviting a story. This is an ordinary seascape without that fishing rod. With the fishing rod, it invites all sorts of questions like did the fisherman drown? Did he fall off the jetty? You know, where's he gone? It's those types of questions that make photos interesting. This is an example where there's an obvious story with the burned out home, sitting in that little oasis of grass with the wildflowers and the tree, but it invites us to wonder about the family, what happened to them, what was their life like, and did they survive the fire? It invites all sorts of questions. Wildlife photography gives us all sorts of opportunities to tell stories. And this gangsta pose of this red-winged blackbird, you know, you can read a lot of human dialogue into the expression on that bird and the way he's glaring at me. Without that bit of his meal in his beak, this is just an ordinary picture of a cardinal. But that little bit of plant matter in his beak suggests, you know, a kid or a pet who's got into food they're not supposed to touch, and they've been caught, and they're denying it vociferously despite the fact the food evidence is right there in their mouth. Okay, there you go. Now, as I said, when you're approaching a subject, you should look at that subject with the view of how does it speak to me? What does it say to me? Do I get something out of that, or is it just a pretty picture? And pretty pictures are okay, don't get me wrong. You got a nice, lovely sunset, I mean, it's a pretty picture, but it's not telling much of a story. But what can you do to tell a story? And it's amazing how sometimes it's a small detail, like that bit of food in the bird's beak, that gives the image the story. Because without it, you don't have a story. The same with the bucket on the exhaust stack. Without the bucket, it's just a tractor. The bucket means somebody's been there. Somebody did that. They had a reason for it. So these are sorts of things. And it's in your approach where this makes a difference. And also in your editing after the fact, you become more confident in picking photos. Now, as I say, I want to finish this off by saying that I was able to pass this piece of advice off to somebody else. I was at a street photography club meet. We all got together, we talked about street photography, then we went off in small groups to see what we could do. And I was paired off with a young woman, and she says, I have no idea what a good street photo looks like. And she says, I don't know what I should be, trying to take a picture of. And I said, simple, just take a picture of something that tells a story. And the light bulb went on. So it's something that just works. And as soon as you get in the habit of doing that, your photography will automatically get better. So give that some thought and give it a try.